And off we go. So let me move. Really should have got this set up before I turned on the stream. I haven't figured out a real optimized way to do my desk yet. This whole doing this for live streaming purposes, I haven't quite figured that out. So what am I working on today? A couple things for this presumably hour of streaming. I'm going to be doing the last page of pencils for the Captain SRSLY comic book I've been working on. Maybe do a little bit of coloring of some Robo stuff that I'm working on, and maybe show off a few other things that I've been working on in the past week or two. Not much left to do on this page, actually. I can maybe take a bit of a relaxed approach. I don't know. Something I've been doing with these last few pages, and I really want to make this a habit, is I'm only allowing myself to zoom to 100%. So if I use my zoom tool and I zoom out, see, won't let me zoom any further than that, no matter how many times I try. Now it'll still let me do this. And actually a really kind fellow Clip Studio Paint user named Dado was telling me how to set it so that I can also not set my pinch zoom to go any further than that. But I'm doing my roughs at 100% so that I have a guide as to what I can actually get on here as far as detail goes. And when I go to do my final pencils, I'm still zooming in tight, but I'm trying to remember to keep those lines thick. The one thing I still haven't gotten good at with Clip Studio Paint is being able to do like an arc or a shape. Like for instance, let's say Dame Lady Cat's umbrella here. If I go like that, man, that is easy to do for me with like if I have a large space to cover. But if I zoom out to 100% and try to get that same arc, there's like I just get so much wobble in the line. You can see the difference, right? Look at all that wobble in there. So maybe it's let's blame the tool, shall we? Maybe it's the digitizer on these what is it? These N-Trig digitizers on Microsoft Windows machines. I don't know. I think it's if it's that, it's a combination of both, because I also notice this when I'm inking on the page. If I try to draw really tiny, I get a lot of wobble in my lines. So anyway, so I'm using the setting of not letting me zoom in past 100% on the rough stage to give me a guide of like, okay, this is what you actually can fit on the image, and here's like a sense of how much detail you can put. So you probably saw me at the very beginning start to pencil in Dame Lady Cat's teeth. I didn't put that in the roughs, so leave it out. You're not going to be able to put that in, Jerzy, when you go to inks. Don't worry about it. It's fine. That's probably a trick many of you have been using for a long time. I'm just now catching up to it. As a teaching artist and somebody who works with young people a lot, and really advocates like this kind of like never-ending learning journey of being a cartoonist, and as somebody who does a podcast, leanintoart.com, about thinking these things through, thinking about this process, and really celebrating never being done growing. I am super busted on going harumph when I encounter a way to do something that, how would I phrase it? That I know would make my life easier and probably create better work, but like kind of goes against my comfort zone. And like the locking the zoom thing was one of those things. It was like, harumph. I like zooming in tight. I get a lot of advantage out of that. Yeah, well, you also spend a lot of time on your pencils, Jerzy. More than you need to. Harumph. All right, I'll give it a try. I'm still going to do it my way, though. Meaning, I'll do the roughs at 100%, but not the final pencils. And maybe someday I'll come around to doing the final pencils, too. See, like here on Turnbuckle's mouth, I'm not going to put the teeth in there because I didn't put it in at the roughs. It's a very Super Friends-y kind of shot for the end of the book, isn't it? I'm thinking about that right now as I'm drawing this character. A lot of fondness for the Super Friends cartoons, but I have to admit that I can only imagine how dumb that name must have sounded to the people who were working on the superhero comics at the time. These people think they're creating modern mythology, and then the cartoon comes out and like, oh, it's Super Friends. Again, I personally love it, but I was just thinking about it recently, about how it must have been weird for the people who weren't children at the time. Hey, John. Well, if anybody knows that you need a cat, it's you. Unlike your cat, mine doesn't have any superpowers, though. She's just actually, she's more of like Batman in the sense that she just has like really awesome physical prowess. But Batman as Mary Poppins as a cat. So like if Batman really hated bad manners, like that was what triggered him. You didn't say please. Yeah. Getting there. It's saved since we've done a little bit of work. I actually have a background drawn for this panel, but I just hidden it right now because I'm going to integrate it with a layer mask. I drew the whole background. I might want to reuse it as an asset in a future book. Anytime you spot like something that could be reused in some way to make your life easier down the road. Another neat thing, something that I'm starting to use more in Clip Studio Paint is the materials folder, where you can save a whole mess of different resources, and it comes preloaded with some, and they have like a marketplace where you can get some, both free and for pay. But you can also make your own, and I want to say it's an image material. Yep, I have my signature saved as an asset that I can just drop into an image like that. And it's just there in Clip Studio Paint, ready for me. I don't have to. I have that signature. I've had that signature file for a long time. It's like a TIFF file that I just would open, copy, and paste as a layer. Oh, what am I using? I actually have it on the screen right now, purposely. So like if you look at my overhead cam, this is Vio Z Canvas. That's the name of this device. It's like one of those Microsoft Surface type dealies, but it was one that was made like 4 years ago, specifically for artists. In that the keyboard completely detaches. It's not like on the Surface where it's like you have to have it connected to use it. Like it detaches, and it is a Bluetooth keyboard, but it's also the laptop lid, so you can have it off to the sides to do your key commands and whatnot. They only made it for 1 year, and they stopped. So I don't know what I'm going to do when this one starts getting too old. I mean, it's already starting to feel a little bit old, which is like depressing maybe, because I love this machine. It's a little heavy though. I mean, it's an Ultrabook, so it weighs. It's way heavier than an iPad, and it's way thicker than an iPad. So it's kind of a drag when I want to like do mobile drawing. Like if I mean truly mobile drawing, like go out to, earlier last year, I would go to the Billy Ireland to get a little bit of, drawing done. I would just sit there in this wonderful building and draw comics and really think about how awesome that felt. But putting this thing in a bag, you feel it. Not like when I saw, some friends using an iPad Pro, I was like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? This whole thing feels like nothing. And Anne, my wife, has a, what is it called? The Mobile Studio Pro, the Cintiq all-in-one. And it's 16 inches. It's quite big. Little lighter than my Vio. And it's a Cintiq, so the drawing experience is amazing. But also just like doesn't feel like something that you can travel with. At least not in my experience. I wouldn't mind trying to use an iPad Pro. But man, I still have a sour taste in my mouth about Apple stuff after last couple years. I know it's gotten a lot better. Also, the fact that Clip Studio Paint is monthly on the iOS, the subscription. I get it. I understand. You gotta have a business model that works if you want to continue development on the thing. But man, I really like the fact that I pay once for the software on my Windows machines, and that's it. And it's just mine. I'm old-fashioned in that way, I guess. So I don't know. I mean, like I also wonder about I wonder what it'd be like using one of those Surface Go's, which are like their answer to the iPad. Would Clip Studio run okay on it? I imagine it would, because it's not that resource intensive. I mean, like the main thing is like you're not editing video on that thing. But like when we can actually go out and do stuff outside again, or like not outside, we can do stuff outside now, but we can actually go to places. I really did enjoy it. There's a place here in Columbus called Dirty Frank's Hot Dog Palace, and I'm a vegetarian, so what are you going there for, Jerzy? Well, they have vegetarian hot dogs, and they have amazing hot dogs. And I used to love going there after class when I would teach a class, and then afterwards go to Dirty Frank's and have a couple hot dogs and draw comics for like an hour. Love to do that again. Captain Hurley's mouth seems a little big to me here. Let's do this. Let's close it just a tiny bit. Those who are watching the chat, I'd be curious to know what setups you use, whether you use Cintiqs or all-in-ones or iPads. I understand that people are actually switching to doing like professional, high-quality work on an iPad with Procreate. Now, when the first tablets with drawing capability, oh yeah, so miss my coffee shop for thumbnailing my comics. The ambient noise helps me. There's something about it. I mean, like, and this is one of the reasons I started doing live streaming is because like it kind of creates like a sort of a focus and accountability that maybe I have ADHD. I'm not sure, but like it sometimes I can catch myself like not attending to the work properly, which is weird because like we love doing this, right? Like we love getting into that flow state and really getting lost in the work. So, but sometimes we just need that extra little push to like keep us on the task. So when the very first tablet PCs, I would just say like Android tablets came out that had pen input. So I'm thinking like, well, this wouldn't be the very first. This would be like a second wave, but it felt like an early first wave. The Galaxy Note 10.1, which was like based on the Galaxy Note phones, but it was a 10-inch tablet and it had a Wacom digitizer on it. And I remember like holding that thing. It was like weighed like a pound and a half or something. I was like, my God, this is the future. But the drawing apps were not there yet. You had Metabang Paint, which was pretty good, and Layer Paint HD was pretty good. But getting your files off of there and also doing high-res work seemed really iffy. It would really choke on. I was doing some work in was it Metabang? I think I was trying to do a high res 300 DPI, so not even that high res DPI comic in layer paint, and it just, if I had more than 3 layers, it just started really choking. Yeah, Steve, I tried the Apple Pencil 2. Actually, it was Raf. I went to his studio and he was letting me try out his iPad Pro, and there's something about like it doesn't quite have that friction and that grab that you get on a Cintiq. So what I'm using, since this, and it's partially because of that smooth glass, right? So the Surface pencils or pens have like different tips you can put in which have like a little bit more grip and grab to them. I'm using one of the ones that like just add a tiny bit of friction, and it doesn't feel quite as good as a Cintiq, but it's pretty close. I felt like the Apple Pencil, I was just gliding all over the place. Procreate for your pencils, inks, and balloons. That's incredible, John. And then you color and Procreate in Photoshop. Wow. That's got to feel like you're living in Jetsons town, right? Like when you're making like professional comics that way on like that device. Procreate recently rolled out CMYK support, right? Because I'd say that's like Clip Studio's like one major weakness. Who here remembers the oh gosh, what was it called? The Mod Book? Like 12 years ago. It was like an Apple. I think they were called MacBooks by that time. I think they ditched the iBook name by that time, but somebody like modified them. You could send in or buy a MacBook and then send it in and get the top, like a custom top put on it with a touch screen interface. But like iOS or OS 10 was not touch enabled, so it's like, man, it was definitely a workaround, but it's still, this is way before the iPad Pro. Oops. Okay, let's get his tail. That's Captain Seriously's hand. That's his wrist. And that's Dino Gator's tail there. Okay, time to integrate the background. Go to my erase some details. Yeah, the mod book really, I mean, like I felt like that, it pointed the way. It made the promise, right? And I remember the moment the iPad came out, I was thinking like, well, they better do that. And it took them a while, but they finally got there. But John, have they improved the file system, like getting to your files on and off the device? Have they improved that? Because like I remember that was kind of a pain in the butt, at least with the Android tablets that I use. And I would get around that by using the Metabang Paint's ability to sync with the cloud, and then get them, go to my desktop and go to log into my Metabang account and then download the file. Come on. What's going on there? Oh, that's turnbuckle. Okay. Oops. Am I done? Oh, nope, nope. Some stuff over here I got to clear out. Okay, so yeah, AirDrop I imagine probably makes your life a little bit easier. So yeah, you kind of got to be in that Mac ecosystem. I imagine AirDrop probably works with Windows too in some way or another. I'm not sure, but done. And I noticed that you said word balloons. You didn't say text, so I'm guessing like for things like Macs, you're creating a separate. What would you call it? Like an Illustrator file or an InDesign file with your lettering that gets layered in later, right? Because CSP Clip Studio has like some pretty awesome lettering tools, but they're not compatible with like they don't because it doesn't have CMYK support. I can't export my lettering files in just black. Okay, let's get this back up to the top. No, stay there. I was grabbing my lettering. And I want my panel borders below that. Okay. So there it is. There's the end of the book. Save your file, Jerzy. Save your work. And I'm going to get my 30% cyan, fill it with 30% cyan, turn it down to 40% opacity, and then I can print it. I won't do that right now. Who wants to watch me print things? Yeah, okay. That is, John, that is another advantage to using these tablet machines. Is like we're finally moving back to hand done sound design. Because it's so much easier to do, right? I mean, and don't get me wrong. There's lots of people who do this stuff very thoughtfully, but there's some people who just think, well, I made it impact, I made it red, it turned it at an angle, I'm done, right? It's like, well, sort of, but like hand drawing the sound design means that like it gets to be visually integrated in a way that feels more like the way it used to be done when all the art was on the boards. So that part is super exciting to me. Let's see, what was I going to do? I was going to make this my reference layer. Go to layer 3, which is my shading layer. So now I'm switching over to doing a little bit of coloring on RoboForce, and I'm going to try to stay in tight in here because I can't show everything on the page. There's spoiler stuff in here for those who actually follow me for that. Then grab this layer. Go to my lighten. Back up just a little bit down there, and the light was on that side of him in the previous panel. Am I on the right layer? Tell me I'm on the right layer. I'm on the right layer. Yep, I was doing all my lettering and sound design in Illustrator as well. And I would spend a lot of time on those sound effect files. Poor Steve, who's also watching, has heard me talk about this a lot. Poor anybody who's talked with me for any amount of time on sound design. Not because... sometimes I fear that like I'm not like a good wizard about it, right? Like I'm not like somebody who's like, oh, I got a lot of passion on the subject because I thought so hard about it. Sometimes I think I'm just like a loudmouth about it. In the end, man, how important is it really? I guess I if I'm going to be real, I fear that it's my loyalty test, right? Like, do you love comics? Do you really love comics? Then you better think about this as hard as I do. Oh, come on. The world needs a lot less of that. I'm not saying that's definitely what I'm doing, but I fear that's what I'm doing sometimes. That's all I'm saying. Put that there. Actually, that should all be in shadow, shouldn't it? What am I doing? Speaking of Maxes, I don't know how many here remember Max Steel's Robo Force from the 80s. And this is for the comic for the new toys. Now he's called Max Zero. If the name doesn't ring a bell, the toy was essentially suction cup robots with a suction cup base, and then a button on their back. You push it, and their arms would close. So a lot of people joke, "Oh, it was the hugging action robot." I only had one. I had the villain, 100. And I wanted Max real bad. But I loved this toy when I was a kid. Okay, let's go back to the highlights layer. And quick mask time. Where's quick mask? Here we go. Making some selections. I'm going to do some little bit of like shiny, highlighty stuff. I'll do. What the hell just happened there? Oh, okay. I see what I did. What do they call this in the business? Grads and cuts. We use gradients for different shading. also do it here. No, I'll do this. How long am I streaming? That's a good question. For another 20 minutes at least. Yeah, Steve, I was as I was thinking about my streaming strategy this year, I was listening to conversations between live streamers, and to be fair, they're mostly gaming live streamers, and they were giving advice on like what's a good amount of time to stream, and they're like, oh, I don't know, you should do it at least 3 times a week, 4 hours at a go. And I was like, there's no way I'm doing that. Like, well, if you want to build an audience, oh my goodness. So like, I guess I got to live with not having an audience. And should I do on the eyes? I probably should. Whoops. Spurious touches. Don't you hate spurious touches? No, I couldn't. I mean, even beyond the idea of being like on and conversational and having your outside persona on for 4 hours at a whack, man, we would miss out on some of that fun stuff when we get lost in the work, right? Like this is fun and everything, but there's also the part of making comics that we enjoy where we just like kind of like zone out and just lose ourselves in it. I get a lot of value out of that part of the process. All right, so let's go select inverse. And I wouldn't be able to do that if I was talking to people. Whoops. What I meant to do was hit Balit. I think I screwed up. I think I did this wrong. Now, do I inverse and then fill? Okay. So let's have a little bit of cleanup to do. Quick mask in CSP works a little different than in Photoshop, and I'm still getting used to it. I get a little tripped up on it every once in a while. If I'm not mistaken, in Photoshop, when you use quick mask, what's red is what's not selected, and what's white is selected. And I think it's flipped in CSP. So what's red is what's selected. So yeah, back to the streaming idea, the length is like I gave myself a budget of like, okay, you can do 2 hours a week. 2 days, 1 hour each. It'd be a way to keep yourself accountable. Way to keep a heartbeat in the world that you're doing work in comics. It'll justify the amount of money you're paying for this restream account. To be realistic about it too. Okay, up. One last place to fix. I don't know if anybody saw the stream I did on Thursday, but man, that was a bit of a wreck. I gotta work on my analog streaming setup with the overhead cam and inking on paper. What I ran into was my little Viozi canvas here. just couldn't keep up with the scene setup that I had worked on. So when I switched to like a really straightforward scene setup of just like, okay, here's the overhead cam and here's like an inset of my webcam, it did a little bit better, but man, there was just a ton of dropped frames in the beginning. The sound was terrible. So I need to keep experimenting with that. And I'm trying to figure out like what it was about that scene setup, because it wasn't like super complicated. I just had a background image and I had, I think, like a image, a ping file of a frame to put around my video, and then I had a little ping image of Baron von Bear, and then like a couple text items indicating my website and contact information, that kind of thing. And my bio was just choking. Yeah, that's better. Now let's leave quick mask. And go back to, okay, I'm on my lighten layer. Time for some radial gradients. Ooh, that's, what have I done? I totally ganked this. I spent all that time on that. The red is the area that's selected. Okay, so I have to invert selection once I get out of quick mask. That's what I'm doing wrong here. See, like I said, it's opposite of the way Photoshop deals with it. There we go. That's better. Nice and shiny. Do something simple for this. All right. Okay, let's see if I can make sense out of this again. The red is what's selected, so I'm going to cut out the parts that are shiny. What am I trying to say? You know what I'm saying? Little highlight shines. So I want to select inverse and delete. That's what I wanted to do in the first place. Okay, I remember now. It's been a while since I've done this. And then these parts would be at different angles. And leave quick mask. then go to my shadow layer. Clear that, start over. There we go. So what I'm doing is the old trick where you have like a highlights and a shadow layer and you just use layer modes to affect how the colors interact with what's below, and it's so it's the same shadow color, just it changes based on what color's beneath it. Speedy, quick and dirty approach that I use on some projects where, like this project, it takes so long to draw the darn robots that I tried to like gain more time in the budget by finding a faster way to color. This is not the way I color things like Baron von Bear and Boulder and Fleet. I color those very differently. But the drawings take way less time in those. Also, I'm intentionally going for like kind of like a bit of a cell shaded animated approach, kind of, because this was originally an 80s cartoon. Oh, look at that. I didn't fill in that area in the flats. Okay, and then go to lighten, highlights, radial gradient, and quick mask. Where's quick mask? There's quick mask. And select inverse and clear. Hey, I remember how to do it now. Okay. Leave quick mask. Am I on the wrong layer? No, I'm on the right layer. And the last move is to, actually I'm going to duplicate my flats layer, because I'm going to turn both of these off. I'm going to make these all the same color, because I only did them slightly different shades of brown just so I could grab them in the, select them each individually. There, now that's the color of Max. Finalized. Save your work. A few minutes left. And put in my stars in the star field here. This technique I know Photoshop has as well, which is the pattern brushes. Where's my stars? Here. Yeah, I knew I made some stars brushes. Oh, ha. Check your ink color, Jerzy. Want your stars to be like Robo Force Gray? No. Let's make our particle size a little smaller. There we go. So we do like a little bit of a denser. Space battle. Whoops. I'm going to be doing this again Thursday. This Thursday at what time? 10 a.m. Eastern time. And fingers crossed, I'm going to be doing some more analog inking. That's all I got left to do on the SRSLY. Well, I take it back. I got to do the cover yet, but I haven't designed it. So anyway, long story. Doesn't matter. There we go. So if you want to come hang out with me while I ink this channel, wherever you're watching me right now. Just quickly do like a little bit of tiny work on this spaceship, and then I'll call it good. Come on. This has been the theme of my morning, is like, this will only take a second, and it doesn't. Okay. Okay. Exit quick mask. Select. Grab the selection, go to my shading. Shade this in. And then I think the stream will be over. Thanks for stopping by, John. I appreciate, you coming and sharing a little bit of your experience using the Procreate. And Steve, always good to talk with you, my friend. The man who makes me laugh harder than almost anybody I know. Come on, go. There we go. If you haven't read the RoboForce comic, you can find it at toyfinity.com. Toyfinity.com. There's actually quite a few pages to it because I've been working on this comic for years now, which is hard to believe. Okay. Well, that's something. Chipping away. Okay, so thanks for hanging out with me. And I'll be back on Thursday with another one of these. Hey, I promised I was going to show off something. So the other thing I do is I do this Transformers podcast called 4 Million Years Later, where me and my buddy Hoover watch an episode of the Generation 1 Transformers cartoon and then talk through the episode and analyze the story. We started making like funny, like playful t-shirts that we got in like it's TeePublic store, I think. Yeah. It's on our website, 4millionyearslater.com. But one of the designs that I did is cassettes before jets, based on an observation we made in the show where Ravage, the Decepticon cassette, will often save his buddies, his fellow cassettes, before he helps out any of the jet Decepticons. There's at least a couple occasions where we notice that happens, where like one of the jets will ask him for help, but he'll help Rumble instead. So Hoover coined the term cassettes before jets. And we also just recently, I think just today, launched this one, which I won't explain it. It's kind of a deep cut into Transformers cartoon lore, but I'll give you a hint. It's from an episode called Megatron's Master Plan, where this gentleman named Sean Berger helps Megatron literally like sentence the Autobots to death and take over the world. Then, of course, Megatron turns on him because that's the way evil works. It breaks its own tools. But there's this moment. This is the moment when Sean Berger realizes what he's done, and then somebody used the term dog lunch. That's all I'm going to say. But yeah, you can find all this at 4millionyearslater.com. Forgot to mention that. So dog lunch. All right. So thanks for hanging out with me. And I will see y'all on Thursday. I've been Jerzy Drozd, jdrozd.com, Jerzy Drozd on Instagram. Okay, bye.